Hello guys, and now we're in the car. So, I guess that's the beginning of the first On the Road podcast. And we're basically just on the start of our road trip, on the way down to Westport for the goal for tonight. On the way we're gonna make a stop in about 20 minutes at Rotorua, I think it's called. Not to confuse with Rotorua, there's a North Island. And yeah, that's gonna be in the other video. And yeah, welcome. I guess for some people I need to introduce myself first. My name's Raul. Just call me that dude Fraser, it's my handle. Fraser is basically just a nick that I was using since I was a kid. Like that cool gamer name you come up with. I hope the audio is gonna be fine like that, otherwise I'm gonna need to figure out a way. But I wanted to find out a way how to tell the story of my trip so far while also just showcasing the average beauty of New Zealand, because it's insane. Just driving around here, around every corner, it looks beautiful. So every now and then I'm gonna switch the camera so you just have the view outside while I'm talking. So guess we need to catch up a little bit from the time period since I last uploaded. So last year I went back to the military for 8 months, basically just saving up money, getting on the grind to come here. Don't want to get into detail with that time period too much, just that I was too busy and not in the greatest mindset for a bit to actually make videos. It just felt like I needed to force myself. So that was like the main reason why I didn't really upload in that time. And yeah, now I'm finally in New Zealand. I fulfilled that dream. It's ever since I was a kid, and I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan, I always wanted to come to New Zealand. It's like, this is my dream destination. And coming here was amazing. That feeling of finally being here was so insane. But yeah, I guess just like that introduction to New Zealand as well, for me it was great because it was completely different than what I expected. I started my journey on the North Island in Auckland. I guess it's a quite typical thing. It's the biggest city in New Zealand by far. The majority of people living in New Zealand live in Auckland. Or not the majority, but a massive amount. I think it's over a third of the country's population lives in Auckland. I'm gonna fact check that. I looked it up a while ago. But yeah, New Zealand, for its size, it's not a small country. It's 280,000 square kilometers tall and only has 5 million people living here, and it's not a big amount. Germany, for example, has 360,000 square kilometers and has 82 million. So just how densely populated Germany is compared to New Zealand is crazy. In New Zealand, you definitely, especially on the South Island, have a lot of places where you're in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing else. You drive there on a fucking gravel road for long distances. Some places that I've been to on the South Island already, that I'm probably not gonna hit up on this road trip, were like 30 kilometers upwards of gravel roads just to get to the place. And then no phone reception, nothing. You're really just in the middle of nowhere. But I'm skipping ahead. It's like I started in Auckland and I had an amazing time. Except that on the first day exploring, I immediately got the worst fucking sunburn of my life. Because what I didn't think of, and I'm already like skin type, I think of the sun, I get a sunburn. But I didn't think of that mystical ozone hole that was a massive problem years ago was right here. Like, the sun intensity in New Zealand is a different thing than in Germany. I burned myself really badly, really quick. So great start, but just the fun thing for me coming to Auckland was that having my main picture of New Zealand being the landscape shown in Lord of the Rings, I was completely just stunned by the whole tropical side of New Zealand. Because coming to Auckland, it made me feel way more like coming to Hawaii, and gave me the Hawaii vibe than it did of what I expected for New Zealand. And that was crazy. I'm gonna switch the camera a little bit just to see my effects. But yeah, it was crazy. So just the whole tropical part, but it makes sense. Like, I talked to a lot of people, and there's this Mandela effect among travelers come to New Zealand that I realized that a lot of people expect New Zealand to be way up higher north in comparison to Australia than it actually is. Like, you kind of expect it to be way more up on the right side of Australia, even though the North Island of New Zealand is basically on the same height as the bottom right edge of Australia, and the whole South Island is below Australia in latitude. It was just something that I realized, but it makes sense that the North Island especially still has that tropical feeling to it, and a lot of like the plants and the wildlife here is really interesting. Because another misconception that I realized before leaving, a lot of my friends were like, yeah, and be careful with all the animals, because they thought just because of how close it is to Australia that it has the same wildlife problems, in the sense that everything is gonna kill you. But oh my god, New Zealand wildlife is so tame. There's nothing that's dangerous to you. It's basically the land of birds. There's so many cool and interesting, funny birds around here. And that was really interesting to me. The only thing that New Zealand has, it's the worst fucking thing, but it's like, how inconvenient can something get before it's actually like a danger thing? Like, just the most inconvenient thing, and it's sandflies. Sandflies are one of the most annoying things you can imagine. It's like, imagine how annoying a mosquito is times 10, and then not even looking like a goddamn mosquito and just looking like a fruit fly. So when you're new to New Zealand, you don't even realize these are the fuckers biting you, and their itch is insane. Like, it's so much worse than getting a mosquito bite, and they're everywhere in summer, especially like in late summer, and oh my god, nothing stops them. Like, with mosquitoes, at least in Germany, if it's really windy, if there's smoke, so if you make a fire, for example, they're not coming. If it's raining, they're not really out. And most of the time you can really easily, if you just get away a few meters, they're not really following you that much. But sandflies, oh my god, they stalk you everywhere, they follow you everywhere. You need to sprint, and then you have like just a few seconds of peace, and there's nothing that stops you. It's really windy, they're still out. It's raining, they're still out. they stalk you. They come in masses. I had one night with a friend here where we camped together, and the whole car was full of them. It took us an hour getting rid of all of them, just laying under one light, constantly squatting into the dark cloud in my car. It was crazy. But yeah, I'm still getting ahead of myself. Maybe I should explain why I got to the point of making the podcast like that in here as well. Because I've already been here in New Zealand for about 5 months, a little bit over. But basically right when I started finally editing and getting all my videos done on my laptop, my car got broken into and it got stolen. It was great. My backpack, my big nice traveling backpack, got stolen, and my laptop with all my videos on there. So that is basically the main reason why I was like, okay, let's do it in a kind of podcast format to explain what happened on my travels so far. Because it's been an amazing journey. I met so many cool and interesting people that just enriching my travels and my life overall now. Like a lot I'm still in contact with because they just became close friends to me. It is crazy how traveling can really get people close to you really quickly. And we all kind of got to that same theory of why that is. Because if you just spend so many forming memories in such a quick succession with people, it really just forms a close bond fast. Like fast. Because when you're at home and you're in that regular working life, it's like having that forming memories with your friends. It's not such a common thing. It's like, I would say most people have like maybe, if they're lucky, 1 or 2 a month with their close friends. And especially getting older, it's getting rarer and rarer because everybody just has their life, kind of goes their path, and it's getting harder to meet in a group. So you have less of these forming memories with your friends. But if you meet someone traveling and you go traveling together, it's like every day is filled to the brim with these memories. It's just, you get there so quickly. And it also makes you feel like you know each other for way longer than you actually do. It's in Auckland, I formed a pretty close bond to two American guys and one Swedish girl, and texting with them, it feels like we know each other for way longer than we actually do, and it's really interesting. And also how important just random people on the way get. Like random acts of kindness mean so much along the way for you, and some people don't really sometimes even don't even realize how much that meant for you right now, because it's just a little thing for them. And I started to really try to do that for other people as well while I'm on the road. So for example, picking up hitchhikers and stuff like that. And yeah, it's like in Auckland I spent not even a full week. I arrived on a Wednesday and I think I left the next Monday or Tuesday. I think it was Monday. But on the way I did so many cool things while being in Wellington. Because just while exploring, for me the typical thing is I go to skate parks, because that's like the main thing where I meet people. Especially because I started traveling on my skateboard again originally. I only got the car the first time I got to Nelson when I first came to the South Island. and met a few really cool guys there, and like immediately met a big group, and that was so cool. That was so cool. Immediately like getting into the rhythm of doing stuff with people. I did the Weather Workshops Unleashed tour. For those who don't know, Weather Workshops is the movie production company who, for example, made that small trilogy called Lord of the Rings, and they're amazing. Their movie work is insane, and especially what they did on Lord of the Rings. And the Weather Workshop Unleashed tour, it's not about Lord of the Rings, it's about 3 of their unfinished products, like projects they worked on but never went to actually become movies. And the tour is amazing. The way on how interactive and how visually pleasing they designed the exhibit is so cool. It's so cool. And in both Weather Workshop tours, the one in Auckland and Wellington, going into the gift shop, I could just buy myself into bankruptcy there. It's insane. They're amazing. And yeah, I'm gonna show pictures on screen just above my talking. And yeah, love that tour. It really inspires you to be more creative, but both of the tours do that. The one in Wellington is really cool as well. That's where you actually tour a lot of the like Weather Workshops itself. You can see a little bit of that, and they actually show you a lot of the actual props from movie. But that's also a problem, you can't film in there or take pictures, so I'll just show the pictures I made outside there from where you're allowed to take pictures. Just because of copyright reasons, because the tour part of it doesn't have the copyright of actually showing the props from the movies, because that's where Warner Brothers has the copyright. I think it's Warner Brothers, like whatever publisher of Lord of the Rings it was. But yeah, both I would definitely say, if you ever come to Auckland or Wellington, do these tours. They take, and they're only $60, and they're so good for the amount of money that you pay. So 60 New Zealand dollars. Converted in euros, I usually go for like 60% of the New Zealand price is the euros, because it's like 0.56, 0.57 is the conversion rate, and with 60%, going a little bit over it, it's just the more secure way of thinking about it. And yeah, they definitely worth it. And one of the main things I definitely wanted to go, that was like when I came to the North Island, I knew leaving Auckland, the next point is gonna be going there. It's Hobbiton. The Hobbiton movie set. It's the only movie set that's still standing. It's not the version from Lord of the Rings. It's actually the version from The Hobbit. And after filming The Hobbits, they were, why not keep it standing and make a theme park out of it for people to actually be able to visit? And it's, oh my god, it's amazing. That's by far like one of my favorite places in New Zealand. That tour, it's $120. It's expensive, I get that, but oh my god, is it worth it? It's such an amazing, like, for me as a big fan, it was such an weird, oh my god, not weird in the sense of bad. I was close to crying multiple times. It was so immersive, and especially for those who don't know, these are Bose sunglasses. I can listen to music with them. And when I went in there, I had Concerning Hobbits, so part of the movie soundtrack from Hobbiton, basically, on my ears. It was such an insane feeling after 20 years of dreaming about it, having that experience. I was happy having the sunglasses because then the people didn't see my tears. And oh my god, did I live out my nerd dream on that tour. I felt bad for the rest of my group at one point because I was answering the tour guide's questions basically immediately when he asked them. When it got to the point where my group just expected me to answer his questions, and I was like, no, guys, he knows I know, you guys know I know. Let's have the option for you guys to answer the question. But it was great. It's an amazing place, and it's still coming. Oh my god, look at it. Oh my god, the trees just went in the way, but the snowy mountains in the background just look so beautiful. It's like, it's deceiving on how amazing the weather is right now, but we're in the middle of winter. I need to say that. But New Zealand winter is pretty chill compared to German winter. Like, we still have 9 degrees right now, and I've barely had any nights so far that went even like below 0. I've had a few nights that went around like 2. I think was the lowest that I had a few times. But hey, we're at the destination. I just need to see where I can park. I think it's over here. Oh, what a sick place. Yeah, Hobbiton, absolute recommendation for anyone coming to New Zealand. There were so many people who didn't even watch the movies or anything who went there. That what really surprised me. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to continue driving here. So I'll just stop the recording here and start the one for the other video. So, see you guys when I'm on the way to Westport. Hello and back, my guys. We're on the second part of the journey for today, and yeah, let's continue where I left off. It's like the North Island was a great experience, but from the overall time right now, I've spent like, I think it was about 4 weeks in the North Island. I have the feeling like I rushed through it pretty quickly. That's why I'm doing my last trip around the South Island now, and then go back on the North Island and explore more there. But yeah, it was after I left Auckland, I went to Hamilton for 2 days. To be honest, nothing too special. It was kind of after all, like the 5 days in Auckland, I was constantly on the run. So Hamilton, I took everything a little bit more chill, explored the city a little bit, and then went to Matapata for Hobbiton from there, and then immediately went to Rotorua. And in Rotorua, I met with one of the American guys. I'm just gonna call them by the cities they're from because I don't want to name call. So he's from Savannah, Georgia. So I met up with Savannah, and because we kind of had the same direction in mind, we traveled together for quite a good amount of time. So we met in Rotorua, left the next day to Taupo. We met another German guy who had a car, so that was pretty cool. So we drove with him to Taupo, went to a few sick places on the way, like Waiotopu. It's like a thermal park. It's really high volcanic activity. It just looks amazing. A lot of different colored acidic lakes and everything. Pretty sick place. And shortly before Taupo, we went to this cool waterfall as well. And what I didn't know at the time was that at Lake Taupo on the other side is the Tongariro National Park, and that's basically Mount Doom is there. So one of the major Lord of the Rings filming locations. And at the time, we didn't have enough time to do it. But I actually got to do it later. When I was in Wellington, I met an Argentinian girl who who I rented a car with, and we drove up, and it was a crazy day as well. I'm gonna get to that story on another day, I guess. Yeah, Northland was great. With Savannah, we stayed another night in Taupo. It was really cool. We went out the night, had a lot of fun. And then the next day we took the bus to Napier. I never know how exactly it's pronounced, or if it's Napier, or whatever. Beautiful city at the, like, officially it's the east coast, but it's more like the southern part, like southeast of the North Island. Beautiful place. Problem we had, we stayed there for 3 nights, I think, and it was raining all of them but the first one when we arrived. And the problem with Napier is the city's pretty much dead after like 4 or 5 p.m. Like all the shops close super early, and then there's not a lot to do when you're not having a car, being able to get out of the city, especially when it's raining. But we went to nice museum, like art museums. We went to the aquarium. It was super cool. I saw a kiwi in there. And yeah, it was definitely pretty nice stay. And we met quite a few cool people there. We had one game night where Savannah showed us a few games that he played with friends at home. Like one really sick card game. We played a really fun dice game. It was pretty cool. And some of the people that I met there, I met again back when I got to the South Island. But we're gonna get there. And yeah, after Napier we immediately went to Wellington, which is in fact the capital of New Zealand, even though it's not the most populated one. It is really cool. Like from all the bigger cities, and you definitely like Wellington the most. It's right the good amount of a bigger city, but embedded in beautiful nature, that you still have the feeling of being able to escape the city fairly easy. And there's a few smaller Lord of the Rings filming locations as well that are really easily accessible. Also, like for example, the location of Rivendell is just a 40-minute drive north from Wellington, and I took the chance to go there when I had the rental car. But yeah, like that rental car thing, it was like I met the girl on a Friday. On a Saturday we met to plan it, and on Sunday we left. The Tongariro Crossing is a 4.5-hour drive from Wellington, and because it's a straight line, it's not a round trip, the trek, you need to park at the end and take a shuttle to the start, and that's crazy. It's like the latest shuttle leaves at 9 a.m. So I got up at 3 a.m. in Wellington, got to the car by like 3:30, picked her up, and we started driving. And with one little break, we got there right on time, and then immediately started into an official, like the official part of the trek is 19.1 kilometers, but then it's another kilometer to the parking lot, and it doesn't really calculate in the elevation you have in there. At the end of that day, with walking around a little bit in Taupo, I had, I think, 28 kilometers on the clock, with barely any sleep the night beforehand, because that was the last night that Savannah and I were like hanging out, because he left New Zealand the day after when I left to do the Tongariro Crossing. So it wasn't like I was like, yeah, I'll go to bed early. I wanted to have a proper last evening with him. And yeah, when I got back from the trip, I spent another, I think, 2 days in Wellington, just to have a little calm down and relax before getting over on the South Island. And the South Island immediately pretty sick impression, even though I got there in the rain. But you get to Picton with the ferry, and it's in the region of New Zealand that's called the Marlborough Fjords, and it's beautiful. It's really like that. These are not massive fjords, but they're really beautiful. It's such a nice area. But at that time I still didn't have a car, and that was when I was finally like, okay, I'm gonna start to travel the way how I intended to originally, how I did it 2 years back in the US. Gonna go by foot and on my skateboard. One little problem arose with that was I accumulated way more stuff and weight this time than I did for the US, just because I was prepared for traveling for a longer period. So I got way more extra weight that I didn't really think about. So when you get to the ferry, you need to weigh your backpack, kind of like a carry-on for a flight. And I realized that it was like 10 kilograms over what I had in the US. In the US, I think overall my backpack with everything in it was like about 20 to 25 kilos with my skateboard calculated in there. When I weighed my backpack for the ferry without my skateboard, I was already at, I think, 26 or 27, and I was without any water or food for the hike the next day, and without the skateboard. So I'm pretty sure that was at least 30 kilos or over. And yeah, like I started my hike from Picton the next day, and kind of had the plan getting to the next bigger town. And Google Maps told me it was supposed to be like I think 30 or 35 kilometers away if I stick to the road. And that's where my next tiny problem arose. It was like in the beginning, leaving Picton, the hiking trail was pretty much parallel right next to the street. And in my mind I was like, yeah, I can just get there and skate at any time. Even though the streets were way too curvy and everything anyway, that I didn't really feel confident about skating there. So I kept walking, and then they got the point where you crossed the road and the hiking trail went pretty steeply up the mountain, but I thought it's gonna be a quick thing, just going over that tip and then going back down. And oh boy, how I was wrong. And yeah, I kept hiking up that mountain, and then you are parallel to the street. The problem is you're like so much higher up from the street, there's no way you're going down there. It's basically a cliff on the side going down, and it's like 20 to 30 meters at least, and that's where the straight is. And yeah, you need to keep going. It's like it diverges at like kilometer 3 and doesn't come back until kilometer 12. And yeah, I just kept hiking. It was beautiful weather. It was still really warm, so it was really exhausting as well, but I could keep pushing fairly well. And I took a break at like the last viewpoint before you can't see Picton anymore. And because I was constantly carrying my skateboard in one hand, and most of the time I had like a drink or my vape in the other hand, I was just used to having my hands full while walking. And when I left from the viewpoint, I had my hands full. And I kept walking and walking. And at one point I realized, why aren't both of my hands full anymore? And realized that when I left the viewpoint, it wasn't my skateboard I was carrying. I had my vape in one hand and a drink in the other one. And realized I forgot my skateboard at the viewpoint. And there would have been so many things I just would have left behind, but not my skateboard. There's so many memories connected to that thing, and the only way that I'm never gonna get rid of it, even if it breaks, I'm gonna keep it. Like depending on where it breaks. But yeah, I need to go back, and then I realized on how far I already walked. It's like I walked way further than I'm proud to admit. but overall I needed to take like a 3 kilometers detour. I passed by that 7 kilometer sign 3 times and it got so frustrating and I was so pissed about myself. So it was just like another dumb thing that is constantly happening to me when I'm in my mind and not thinking about stuff. But yeah, it's like in the end I didn't get as far as I planned and only got to one of the campsites that was on the way. Beautiful place, Momarengi Bay along the Marlborough Fjords. Beautiful place to camp there. Beautiful campsite. And I was happy that I had a tent. Only problem was I didn't have a mattress. So after that day with, I think overall was 22 or 23 kilometers, that I was just dying at the end. And yeah, I got there and then I needed to sleep in a tent without a mattress, just straight on the ground. Wasn't the best healthy sleep to get fit for the next day. But the next day I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to hitchhike and get the rest of the way to Nelson. And it definitely worked. The thing on that day, I hiked like 5 kilometers before I got picked up. And I got picked up by this really nice Lithuanian girl who took me all the way to Nelson. And we stopped at a few places along the way. And yeah, when I got to Nelson was basically the point where I needed to reconsider how I wanted to travel to South Island, because I also realized that without a car I probably couldn't really have went to like 90% of the places I wanted to go to. So I stayed in Nelson for a little bit longer period, like 5 days, kind of figuring out on how I want to continue my journey, and in the end ended up buying the car I have now. So for basically all my time on the South Island, besides like a week, I'm living in this car now, and it's pretty fantastic. I'm happy about everything, how everything turned out. But I'd say that's probably enough for the first episode. Give you another of how sick it's just looking. Like it started raining a little bit right now, but it's just a gorgeous drive. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Expect more to come, and I see you in the next episode. Bye bye, my guys and my dudes and dudettes and whatever you want to be.